Sort of Coming Chapter 1094. After the rain in the mountains, the air is still cool, the days are long and there is nothing to do, and Yen sits leisurely. One big and one small at the table at the foot of the mountain, all with their legs crossed, eating sunflower seeds and chatting about what they have. They just pass the time leisurely. The two of them are a pair of good brothers who are famous for their lofty aspirations. There is no need to practice the Tao, no need to practice boxing. Why? Both of us are first-class geniuses. Genius aside, people who can climb mountains and practice Taoism, with equal physical strength, must avoid certain potholes on the way of practice, such as talisman, which means that the threshold is high, and they need to have a master to guide them. Otherwise, if they are not careful, they will waste a lifetime. Talk about longevity, talk about He-Fei-Shing. This makes women afraid of marrying the wrong man and afraid of entering the wrong profession. Extremely true. What Brother Dafeng said is extremely true. What he said is extremely true. Some pits are shallower, and you can climb out after suffering a bad opportunity. But some pits are very deep, and you can't climb out after jumping in. The most fearful thing is to encounter a bottomless pit with no bottom. Brother Dafeng is one of the few martial arts masters in Aquarius continent. Learning martial arts and practicing boxing, this profession has a low threshold, so it's not a trap, right? This is not called a pit. Jing Dafeng nodded and said, "It's a cliff." Chen Lingjun rolled his eyes and didn't say anything. It would be really ignorant of his conscience if he echoed a few words. Jing Dafeng laughed and said, "Of course, the number of people learning martial arts outside the mountains is far greater than the number of Taoists in the mountains, but you can't think that learning martial arts is not a pit just because of this. You can't see Qin Pingan and Chao Ci at a young age, with a high realm, flying in the sky. I feel that this profession is so messy." At this time, on the mountain road not far away, an old fairy with a 3-strand long beard and elegant Taoist clothes came. It was Lu Yong, the owner of the Qinghu Palace in Tonggishao. The old man held the fly whisk in his hand, and walked the square steps steadily, looking very dignified. In the words of my old cook, the mountain is not a land fairy, and the gongmen is not a county magistrate, so I can't get out of this kind of momentum. Chen Lingjun took a closer look, got up hastily, shook his sleeves, and strode forward. "Oh, hey, isn't this Brother Lu, a rare visitor?" The old real man stopped and beat him, and said with a smile, "Come here uninvited, bother." Immediately Lu Yong added, "Poverty Taoist saw Jingqing Taoist friend and Jing Zongshi from a distance, such a talkative talker with a youthful spirit, and a swallow sitting like a white jade." Now that Jing Dafeng is not a gatekeeper, he didn't get up to entertain guests. Hearing Lu Yong's comment, he was amazed. Chen Lingjun imitated the old master of the mountain and sighed, "Just say some polite words. Who do you look down on?" Brother Lu came to Luopa Mountain, and he still needs to say hello to someone. These words are shabby and unreasonable. It seems that we are here snobbish, no nostalgia at all. It doesn't matter if you slap me in the face, whoever we brothers are with whom, the big deal is that we'll get rid of it after drinking 2 cups at the wine table. Slapping my master's face is not okay, absolutely not. Lu Yong laughed loudly, changed his way to Menjishu to hold his fists for Jianghu, and shook his fists vigorously. "It's true that my brother is hypocritical. When I turn around to the table, I will punish myself with 3 bowls first." Chen Lingjun asked from the bottom of his heart, "Brother Lu is a very busy person now. What is it?" "I can't explain clearly in the letter. I have to climb the mountain in person. Could it be that I have encountered some difficulties? Can I tell my brother in private? If you can help, I will definitely help. Not to help is the grandson." Lu Yong hesitated for a moment, but chose to say straightforwardly, "Fellow Taoist Jingqing, to tell the truth, I have a direct disciple called Zhao Zhu. Am not boasting. This Xiao Zhu's talent for cultivating Taoism is not bad, and his character is even better. That's right, I was wondering if I could help this apprentice get a seat in the backmost seat in your Jisa Peak Patriarch Hall, and be a guest official who can attend the discussions. In this way, I will remove it later with the burden on his shoulders, and planning to retire, it will be more justified for Xiao Zhu to inherit the position of palace master. For such a big matter, it was just a letter sent by Fei Jian, which really seemed not sincere enough, as if Qinghu Palace was giving orders to Luopa Mountain. Lu Yong didn't think he had such a big face, so he had to go this trip in person, meet Qin Shanju, and discuss this matter carefully. Be sure, there are some. Chen Lingjun rubbed his chin, thought for a moment, and said with a serious expression, Xiao Zhu, remember, I met him, he is a good person. If it's just a general named guest, it's not difficult at all, but it means that there is a position in our patriarch hall. Yes, this is not a trivial matter. I can't help the master of the mountain and agree to it indiscriminately, but I can guarantee two things. One is to wait for the master of the mountain to return to the mountain. Say good things to that child and help him out. Besides, the master of the mountain thinks that this matter is feasible, and if he really wants to include it in the Jisa Peak's discussion process, and discuss whether it can be discussed in the Patriarch Hall, I will definitely be the first to support it, and there will be no second words. Lu Yong thanked him sincerely, and asked in a low voice, Shanju Qin is not in the mountain now. Chen Lingjun hummed, going down the mountain, my master is always so busy. The little boy in Tsing Yi let out a sigh, that's why we can be so idle. Don't make mistakes when you're busy, and don't make mistakes when you're free. You need real skills. The old man smiled and said, the atmosphere in the mountains is so good, Daoist Jingqing has contributed a lot. Chen Lingjun silently memorized this truth, it must be a golden word, so that he can talk to a stupid girl who only teaches him how to do nothing. Lu Yong, who was planning to live here for a while, met Jing Dafeng, chatted a few words, they were like-minded, and one of them praised Lu Yong, his elder brother is very immortal, which is rare, and he is even more human, precious and precious. One said that Brother Jing had worked hard and made great achievements, and that he regarded fame and fame like dung, and had fewer desires than people who practice Taoism. The two sides talked more and more hit it off, so they made an appointment for wine, and Mr. Lu took a pen to sign in with the Taoist priest. Chen Lingjun led the old man up the mountain to stay in an elegant and quiet mansion. The relationship between Luopa Mountain and Qinghu Palace is somewhat similar. The family relationship between the two villages under the mountain is stronger than ordinary allies. Before Chen Lingjun went down the mountain, he saw another new face. Jing Dafeng clicked his tongue in amazement, what a good day today, the guests are here together. On the mountain road, there was a woman with a graceful figure coming slowly. She was like a fairy sister with hazy feathers. After scrutinizing her carefully, she found that there was a mole on the tip of her nose. Not only was it not a pity of a beautiful jade, but it had a sense of beauty that made the finishing point. Jing Dafeng hastily straightened his clothes, planning to meet the unidentified woman in person for a while. The former janitor, isn't he still the janitor? We are not happy to cross the river and tear down the bridge in Luoba Mountain. After meeting with the woman, she directly gave a certificate. Jing Dafeng took over, and after confirming that it was not a forgery, he was quite surprised. It was actually a customs clearance certificate issued directly by the Confucian Temple of China. I heard from the gossip that over the years, the Confucian Temple has only taken out a total of more than 100 copies. Generally speaking, most of the Qi practitioners who have won this honor are local monks in the wilderness, and spies who have been placed in the wilderness by Houran Tianxia and have not returned to their hometown for a long time. Xingqingjia is written on the pass, and the Taoist name is Yuanhu, but did not specify the origin and sect. The female cultivator smiled and said, I dare not hide it. I am actually from the wild world. In the past, the dojo was located in Jinsue City. Now I can be regarded as a monk who has not yet been included in the genealogy of Baidi City. Jing Dafeng suddenly realized, and said that this Taoist name was familiar, and it turned out to be the city lord of Jinsue City, a genuine fairyland city lord. Now the surname is Jing, which is reasonable. Qing Jia said in an extremely mellow Dali official dialect, this trip to Aquarius Island is only for two things. One is to follow Mr. Jing's decree, find Gu Kan, and help him establish a sect with all his strength. The other is to meet a certain senior from my hometown, trace back to the origin. This senior can be regarded as the originator of our Jinsue City. Jinsue City can have today's situation, Jingqingjia can have today's realm. It is thanks to him, recognizing the ancestors and returning to the clan is the meaning of the title. Now that Jinsue City belongs to the vassal sect of Baidi City, and the matter of returning to the clan has been settled, then it is even more necessary for me to come here and recognize my ancestors. Jing Dafeng knew this well. It is true that Xiaomo left 6 Dao veins in the wild world, but once everyone gathered together to chat, according to Xiaomo, it seems that there is only one line of incense left over there, which is not a climate. Cats and dogs, 3 or 2, at any time the incense may be broken. It stands to reason that the remaining stick of incense that Xiaomo had in those years should not be Jinsue City. Wilderness Jinsue City is such a famous sect that even Qi practitioners from Haoran Tianxia have heard of it. For example, Jing Dafeng knows this sect. It is famous for having many female cultivators. The nun in the robe is even better. For 10 days and half a month, they changed one piece every day, and they didn't bring any duplicates. Although in the end, they all came to the same goal, and they had to take off their clothes. Just thinking about it can make bachelors laugh. Jing Dafeng wiped his mouth, and explained with a smile, Shema is not on the mountain, and has gone on a long trip. But I will be back soon. I believe fellow Daoist Qingjia will not wait long. Qingjia smiled and said, I haven't had time to ask the name of my fellow Taoist. Jing Dafeng said, it's a coincidence that we both have the surname Zheng. We were a family 500 years ago. How old is my sister? Since we both have the surname Zheng, it's not appropriate to call me Xiao Zheng. You can just call me Xiao Feng. Jing Dafeng invited, I invite fellow Daoist Yuanhu to go to the humble house to talk about it. The place is simple. The customs of the barbaric world are not polite, not to mention that Qingjia is still the lord of a city, who has been mediating for many years between Yangji and Feifei, who are also the throne demon, and now he is following Jingzhuzhong. Qingjia didn't feel the need to argue with the man in front of her, so she directly interrupted the greasy words of the scruffy man, and said with a smile, I want to disturb Jingdayu's residence, but I would like to ask, can I go for a walk on the mountain? I only took a rough look at the scenery on the mountain road, and I have really admired the dojo of Lord Ingguan for a long time. Jing Dafeng immediately changed his words, patted his chest and said, it's easy to say, the size of this mountain, the distance and the road, I can walk down with my eyes closed, and I will take you up the mountain. Xian Wei was speechless. Qingjia probably never imagined that before he entered the mountain, he would meet such a person at the foot of the mountain. The desolate mountain in her impression is not like this. After all, it was a dojo built by the young Ingguan himself, so it should be a well-guarded and orderly hilltop. Because he didn't know who the man surnamed Qing was in Luopa Mountain, what background he had, and what relationship he had with Qin Ingguan, Qingjia had no choice but to follow him up the stairs and climb the mountain slowly. Fortunately, this trip was not in vain. When Qingjia got her wish, she actually set foot on Mount Luoba, which to a large extent dilutes the discomfort caused by the man around her. Just now after recording the names at the Taoist priest's side, Qingjia stopped to take a deep breath, looked up at the plaque, and saluted before officially moving up the mountain to pass the gate archway. If it weren't for the monks of the wild monster race, they would definitely not be able to truly understand the complicated and heavy thoughts of Qin Jia and the others. Because he had never really been an enemy of the Great Wall of Sword Qi and the last hidden official. Chen Lingjun sent elder brother Lu to his residence, and on the way back to the foot of the mountain, he saw Jing Dafeng hooking up with an unfamiliar girl there, and felt sad for a while. Brother Dafeng, he has been single for many years, it's hard. Chen Lingjun slipped to Xianwei's side first, and asked in a low voice, "Who is it?" Taoist Xianwei replied with a heartfelt voice, "It's a fellow Taoist from a foreign land. His surname is Jing, his name is Qingjia, and his Taoist name is Yuanhu. He seems to be looking for Gu Kan. After all, unlike Jing Dafeng, Xianwei is on the genealogy, so he can't see much inside story. Nor was he ever curious about the visitor's background." Chen Lingjun nodded, thinking he understood. "I presume that this woman is Shan Zhexiu, who has nowhere to seek refuge, and I can't find the gate of the temple in Baidi City in Zhongtu with a pig's head, because I have heard about the relationship between my master and the little slug. Because of the relationship, I just want to ask my master to help you relax, say something nice to Gu Kan, and recommend him." The little boy in Tsing Yi sighed softly. It was not easy. Climbing the mountain together, listening to Jing Dafeng's ramblings, showing courteousness in different ways, and getting close. Chen Lingjun, who was walking behind, clenched his hands into fists, pressed his cheeks hard, and suppressed his laughter. Passing by a house that was not closed, there was an old man in the yard, lying on a rattan chair, closing his eyes and recuperating, breathing deeply, as if he had fallen into a light sleep, holding a yellowed cattail leaf fan on his abdomen. When passing by the open courtyard gate, out of the corner of her eye, Qing Jia saw a scene. A flower that seemed to be persuaded by the spring breeze to travel far away, left the branch, swayed, and fell on the old man's forehead. She took a few more glances. The old man was similar to the one with the surname Jing. He seemed to be a martial artist, and his level was definitely not low. The state of Qingjia is high enough, and it can be seen that the old man who is in a trance like a monk is not pretending to be asleep, but has really settled his heart and wandered away. It is really rare for a martial artist to be like this, but to Qingjia, it is not a big surprise. After all, what she has seen and heard are all the affairs of high-ranking people in the wild world. The man's surname Jing next to him, even if he was 20 years younger, I believe his appearance would not be much better. But the old man in the courtyard, if his age is doubled, and based on his bearing, he might be a beautiful man. Did Jing Dafeng rub his hands by accident, or on purpose? The old cook really has a hand. Let Jiang Taigong catch the bait. This trick can be learned. Looking at Jing Dafeng, who was eager to try, Chen Lingjun felt that he had to be a firm and steadfast friend, and said with his heart, "Brother Dafeng, listen to my advice, don't learn this craft, trust me once, the result will only be good." It was just the opposite. No matter how ugly the old cook looks, when he shut up and didn't speak, he still looked like a dog. If the fallen flower hit you on the head, in the eyes of a woman, it would feel like you can say no. Jing Dafeng laughed and said, "Tell me about it. Listen carefully." Chen Lingjun lowered his voice and said, "Down into the latrine." Jing Dafeng pressed the head of the little boy in Tsing Yi. "I can use metaphors, and am good at talking." Chen Lingjun sighed and complained to himself, "It really is a bad word." Jing Dafeng lost interest all of a sudden, so he found an excuse and asked Chen Lingjun to lead the way for him. The man's expression was gloomy, the curtain fell from his back, and he went down the mountain alone. Zhu Lian is often like this now, and he regards sleeping as a practice, and everyone is no longer surprised. According to the information leaked by Xiaomi Meili, it seems that the old cook has made an appointment with the good man Mountain Master, and the place is in the capital city of Nanyuan Kingdom, which is in his own blessed land. This winter, they will fight whenever it snows. Jing Dafeng walked out of the bluestone slab path, a path of the main spirit of Jilin Peak. he could go up or down. Hesitated a bit, Xing Dafeng walked to the top of the mountain. Turning his head and looking at the foot of the mountain, behind a pillar in the archway of the mountain gate, there will be a bamboo chair sitting on a fake Taoist priest who can't even grant a private letter. In fact, his name is Nianjing, and Xianwei is just his name, and he gave himself a Taoist name, Xushuan, for walking in the rivers and lakes. He was abducted by the mountain master from the Dali capital, so the mountain master on the Luopa mountain side is used to calling him the Taoist priest. Only when Chen Lingjun got to know him well would he intentionally turn a Xuanqiu upside down and jokingly call him Daoist Xuanqiu, just to make fun of Zhuangzi's Xuanqiu. Xianwei's realm is not high, and his face is not thin. He has wandered around the world for many years, and he is ashamed of this. On the contrary, I like the statement of fellow Daoist Jing Qing. Taoist Xianwei is Tianqing's gatekeeper every day, hiding a book in each sleeve. When no one is around, he reads the serious one, and when there are people around, he reads the more serious one. It's raining, what else can I do? Hide from the rain in the house. At most, I just put up an umbrella, pretended to be, and sat at the gate of the mountain, as cold as a quail. After sitting for a long time, I went back to the house to read a book. Roughly estimated, it has been raining for 9 days in a row. King Mingxiangxia, about 5 days. In the Western Buddhist kingdom, it may be 4 days. In the wild world, 1.5 days. Colorful world, half a day. Xing Dafeng originally thought that Xianwei would inexplicably break through several realms during the raining process of the world. It is not uncommon to break through, but it is strange not to break through. But things are just so weird. I never thought that the realm of Xianwei's body was so stable that it was unreasonable, and he could be said to be unshakable. Now that the rain has stopped, the Taoist priests were in the second realm when they came to Luopa mountain, and they are still in the second realm now. After all, practice is his own business. Xing Dafeng is not good at reminding anything, and it is not appropriate to talk too much. There is often a saying at the foot of the mountain that tells the truth, but there is a taboo of, it's a pity to tell the truth, on the mountain. Xing Dafeng hugged the back of his head with his hands, and went up the mountain with his shoulders dangling. Hey, since there is no graceful figure of Mistsin on the mountain road, she must be practicing boxing on the white jade square on the top of the mountain. The woman punches, tosses and turns, ups and downs, can it be unsightly? Walking up the steps slowly, Xing Dafeng tidied up his clothes, spit in the palm of his hand, and stroked his temple hair. In the past, my master didn't like to chat with me. Senior brother Lier didn't know whether he was passing on the imperial decree, or because he saw that his junior brother was more handsome than him, so he deliberately used words to disgust me, saying that the reason why Xing Dafeng couldn't learn martial arts was that he couldn't do well in praying for gods. Being dishonest, failing to succeed at a high level and not achieving at a low level, you end up in a situation where you can't rely on both ends. You can't learn anything, and you can't master martial arts. A person who wants and pursues what? Over the years, in Feishing City under the colorful world, Xing Dafeng repeatedly chewed these heavy words, knowing the truth, otherwise he would not have thought of going to Dadu and building a temple as a god. But deep down, Xing Dafeng is still lazy. It's not much better than that Zhongqian who thinks about lunch and dinner after breakfast every day, and thinks about getting supper after dinner every day. Ordinary people do what they want, and when they go out, others will flirt, and after returning home, wives and concubines are in groups, golden mountains and silver mountains. What the Taoist seeks is for those who are lower, to climb through the realms, to be the gods on land who can prolong their lives, and for those who are higher, to live forever and soar in the sky, hoping to live the same life as the heaven and the earth. Xing Dafeng took all these very lightly. Just treat it as a dog that can't change eating shit. Xing Dafeng climbed to the top of Jilin Peak first, and didn't seats in Yuanji, so he planned to go to the back mountain again. The little girl named Xiao Yang seemed to feel ashamed every time she saw her, so she might be a little bit mean to her. The girl has good eyesight. I don't know if it's because she covets her appearance, or because she sees her superb martial arts skills. Both? Alas, I have to live up to their infatuation again. Jing Dafeng walked around the original mountain temple on the top of the mountain, leaned on the railing, and looked at the mountain stretching all the way to the north. His eyes were full of blue, especially after the rain. I don't know if the girl from the Su shop will be able to learn the truth when she comes to the unfamiliar Qingming Tianxia and learns boxing from her senior brother who has never masked her face. This is a well-deserved big shot. Even if he is said to be number one in martial arts in several worlds, there is no objection. First, the last priest of the Great Wall of Sword Qi, Yan Gua. After that came Lizhu Cave Shaman, Xie Shinin. Now he is the number one martial artist in Qingming Tianxia, Yashan Lin Jiangxian. Jing Dafeng has been in Feishing City for many years, and he is very familiar with the customs there. In addition, he and Miss Yanqin often eye to eye, and their relationship is getting better, and the anecdotes about the Great Wall of Sword Qi are even more precious. Compared with the famous Summer Palace, the Cold Palace is not enough. It is similar to the former's vassal, and the two have the meaning of the empress of the palace and the concubine of the Cold Palace. The outside world will directly associate the summer resort with the hermit official. Whenever one of the titles is mentioned, the other will naturally come to mind. However, in the hands of the two hermit officials, Xiao Sun and Chen Pingan, they have indeed pushed the summer resort to a very high level. The location of the place has made Qi practitioners from Manhuang and Haoran two worlds remember this place name deeply. Now the cold shelter in Feishing City has been transferred to the lineage of the criminal officials who are responsible for the affairs of the abbot Qi Shou and Yan Xan, and has become the office of the criminal officer Jianqiu and the martial arts arena for martial arts. But in fact, the hiding palace was the exclusive domain of the priests a long time ago. It's just the file of the Great Wall of Sword Qi, deliberately avoiding talking about it. One for summer and one for cold. Shelter from the cold. Why hide from the cold? Why hide? Could it be that the two palaces of the Great Wall of Sword Qi have their own origins with the gods of fire and water from the 5th to high school in the ancient heavenly court? Chen Pingan once asked the boss sword fairy this series of questions, but the boss sword fairy asked him to ask the priest, saying that the priest was in charge of this, and he knew better about these old calendars who were too rough to wipe their ass. Chen Pingan had no choice but to ask the sacrificial officer, apart from the name on the secret document, what was his life experience, why the record was erased, and where is this person now? The boss sword fairy said that you can ask the former hermit official. I remember that the chauffeur Braid and the priest seem to have a good relationship, and the relationship is not bad. Chen Ping angrily gritted his teeth, and said that you asked me to ask Xiao Sun, who is already in the 14th realm, whether you can run away after asking or die after asking. The boss sword fairy patted the shoulder of the new hermit official, and sighed, so it can't just be taller than Xiao Yu, it doesn't matter, wait until your realm is equal to her, then you can ask, and you can run away after asking, if you want to talk a little more, just talk a little more. It was in the hands of Cui Chan that Lizhu Cave set up the ghosts. Chen Pingan already knew that the current dealer was still Lin Jingqing. As for the former dealer, there was no record and he was doing nothing. It seemed that his senior brother Cui Qin was not satisfied with his actions, so he was replaced by Lin Jingqing, who was working in the kiln supervision and construction department. That is the foreigner with the pseudonym Xie Shinin. This person is the disciple of old man Yang in name, and his status is comparable to that of Li Er and Jing Dafeng later. And Xie Shinin, as the last sacrificial officer of the Great Wall of Sword Qi, left his hometown quietly. The Hanging Mountain is the only way to go. After that, he ran into Zhang Tiaoxia, the #1 martial artist in the past at sea, and had a fight. After that, they landed in Tongisao and found Qingtong from Xinyala. According to the inside story that Qingtong leaked to Xiaomo, the two parties broke up because of disagreements. Then they went to Aquarius continent and secretly entered the Lizhu cave. Old man Yang from the pharmacy, all the disciples he taught were martial arts without exception. From Xie Xinan, to Li Er, Xing Dafeng, and finally to Sudian and Xialingshan. Of course, before Xie Xinan, there must have been some senior brothers and sisters, but after all, the lifespan of a pure martial artist is no better than that of a qi trainer, unless there is an exception like Xie Xinan. In the history of the Great Wall of Sword Qi, the last martial artist at the end was Bai Lianshuang, an old lady from the Ning mansion. According to the archives of Yingguan's lineage, going back up, the last martial artist at the end of the border has been hundreds of years, and he is still a female master. Even if you keep turning the page, in the long history of the Sword Qi Great Wall, the number of martial arts masters who can reach the peak and the end is still pitifully small. The reason why it is so abnormal is naturally that the Great Wall of Sword Qi has long planned to build dikes to intercept the flow, accumulate a lot of money, and let someone monopolize the martial arts. This certain person is the last sacrificial official, whose surname is Yan and whose name is Gua. His real name is Yan Gua. Chen Pingan once saw a comment in Shao Sun's handwriting on a secret record of a file. The body of every pure warrior is a pantheon of incense. Thousands of years ago, the first ancestor of the military family opened up the martial arts with one hand, which opened a new life for the world, but it is a pity that he reached the top but failed to ascend to the sky. If it is too close, it becomes a burden that cannot be lost. Unless he dissipates all his luck, he will have a chance. It's just that the battle of ascension to heaven was about to usher in, so he threatened to talk about it later. The big battle was imminent, and it would be good to have more killing power. As for what happened later, it was the separatist internal strife that almost caused chaos in the world again. He was beheaded and imprisoned in the sky for 10,000 years. At that time, Chen Pingan also asked the boss Jianxian a crucial question: why Ning Yao was injured so badly in the small town. Chen Qing's answer at that time was rather perfunctory. He only said that someone had made a fortune-telling plan, and it was roughly that Ning girl should have this disaster, and the sooner the better. Bad things are not afraid of early, but easy to clean up. Jing Dafeng straightened up, focusing his gaze on a mountain top. Not far from the north of Luopa Mountain, there is a small mountain, and there is no master practicing Taoism there, so it is so deserted. I remember Wei Bo mentioned it once, as if there were some construction projects on that mountain before, but they were just sloppy and put on airs, and then they were abandoned halfway. To the north is the Hon Kim Lake formed by the relocation of all the peaks of Longquan Jinzong. This mountain and this water are a little lonely, and they have been silent for a long time. Jing Dafeng thought for a while. That solitary mountain seems to be called Jinrang Mountain. The matter of love between men and women is actually similar to cultivating Taoism. The mountain is not just me, I will go to the mountain. Probably wishful thinking of unrequited love is approaching, but can only look at the mountain from the foot of the mountain. Jing Dafeng went to the back mountain, and then Chen Lingjun took Qing Jia to the top of the mountain, planning to walk around here first and then take her to the Jisa Peak to have a look. Qing Jia looked at the building on the top of the mountain and asked doubtfully, "Where is this place?" It turns out that there is no plaque hanging here, but there is a long couplet hanging on it. It doesn't look like a fairy mansion, but more like a temple. Why was it hung here earlier? Why not withdraw now? Chen Lingjun explained with a smile, "There used to be a mountain temple here, and this is the old site." Later, the master of the mountain changed the place and moved to Qidun Mountain. The way we went up the mountain just now is actually a way of burning incense. My master likes it very much. This couplet is left. According to the local custom, it can be called yuzhua. Although it looks a bit weird and doesn't match, my master believes in this very much. It's not just a display. Qing Jia was stunned, no wonder. She looked at the couplet again, and silently wrote down the content. The world whispers, the sky hears thunder. Although the ancestors are far away, the sacrifices are Icheng. Don't worry about who I was in the last life, I need to pay more attention to this life, my life is up to me, and the eternity is on this day. The dark room is heartbroken, and the eyes are like lightning. Although the descendants are stupid, poetry and books should be read. Who will be me in the next life? Don't ask, don't underestimate this body, seek blessings for yourself, 3 talents are here 6 feet away. Chen Lingjun didn't urge her to move. Our Luopa mountain is full of knowledge. We are the ones who know and cherish the best of blessings. On the way to Luopa mountain, no matter how Qing Jia, who was in the fairyland, tried her best to see the mountain, after all, she was looking at the mountain from outside the mountain, covered by clouds and fog, so she couldn't see it clearly. After passing the archway at the foot of the mountain and actually entering the mountain, I realized that there is indeed something hidden in the sky. In addition, Qing Jia has a keen sense of consciousness, which is different from ordinary Taoists. When he only talked about the heavy rain that never stopped before, Qing Jia saw that it was even worse. There are many ways, and she has obtained a copy of Dao Yun, so far she has not been able to truly refine it. Qing Jia knew that this matter was not small, but it was a pity that she was allowed to use her supernatural powers, and she even chose one on the spot. Living in a place with clean mountains and rivers, trying to form an array to absorb rainwater, and want to gain more from this, but still can't get more gifts from heaven. Qing Jia knew that this matter could not be taken by external forces, so she had to give up. Before she set off on her way, she did not remove the landscape formation, but left a sum of fairy money, and let it continue to operate without rest. The loss of earth treasures is not worth mentioning, and it is left to those who are destined to enter the mountain to get this good place. Qing Jia came to this Luopa mountain, although she was a little disappointed at the foot of the mountain. When she came up to the mountain, she became more and more sure that this mountain hides a big formation, which is very mysterious. Even if there is no one in the mountain, she still wants to sneak in. God is still difficult. Earlier, Qing Jia could tell at a glance that the little boy in Tsing Yi with the Dao name Jing Qing next to him was a water snake. Chen Lingjun took her to the Patriarch Hall of Jisa Peak. The two sides chatted while browsing. The scenery she saw along the way made her feel relaxed and happy. Miraculous, not artificially chiseled out. In addition, there are many pavilions on the mountain road for people to rest their feet and enjoy the scenery. Every few miles, there is a pavilion with wings. It is only said that the Zambi pavilion they are standing at the moment has a wide field of vision, like a mountain helping each other, sweeping away the peaks and clouds for people. You can see a mountain range in the distance, following King Jia's line of sight. Chen Lingjun introduced that it is called Chiduan Mountain. It is the place where my good buddy Wei Shinjun became enlightened. For a person of integrity who has mastered the supernatural powers of shrinking earth, Piyun Mountain is very close at hand. If Qingjia hadn't been hindered by her own background, she really wanted to go to Piyun Mountain for a while, hide her identity, and participate in a famous event. Night Banquet. The road of incense, fire and divine way is indeed easier to achieve longevity than refining qi and cultivating truth. Qingjia couldn't help but let out a faint sigh. As a qi refiner cultivates the way to climb the mountain, no matter how firm your heart is as a rock in asking, you will inevitably have to sigh, lamenting the hard-won self-cultivation at present, and melancholy about the road ahead. Rugged. In the 13 realms under the Hedao, one mountain releases one mountain barrier, and the realms are gates, and there are thousands of mountains beyond the mountains. Different from the common wild monsters, Qingjia admired Haoran Tianxia since he was a child. Of course, if Mr. Zheng hadn't come to Jinsui City, Qingjia would not have become a trader, left the wild and took refuge in Baidi City. There is no limit to the sea of learning, but there is no limit to my body. Abilities are limited, but desires are endless. This skin-like skeleton of a person is not only a treasure raft for cultivating Taoism and becoming immortal, otherwise, why would the monsters and spirits in the world have to work hard to refine a human form, but at the same time it is a copper wall and iron wall to break through the wall to prove the Tao. It's the end of the military solution on the spot, and obediently return all the Taoism to the world. In many unknown caves, there are many Qi practitioners who have great perseverance, great opportunities, and great luck, and now they are all dead bones. In any case, more than the best is more than the next. Look at the mundane world outside the mountains. How many people are young in the compilation of thousands of years, and the same poor people for 100 years? Isn't it even more sad? Qing Jiao's imagination was full of imagination, and her mind wandered thousands of miles. At the beginning of the melting of heaven and earth, the vitality is weakened. Reminiscing about the style of the ancients, it is impossible to seek. Hearing the sound of rustling footsteps in the distance, Qing Jia immediately put away her scattered thoughts like weeds and settled down. She didn't want to show the slightest bit of cultivation here, so she didn't use the kind of spells similar to Buddhist celestial eyesight. She just turned her head and looked. See also, always uncertain about the true state of the Comer. Seeing that fellow Taoist Yuan who didn't move for a while, Chen Lingjun simply sat cross-legged on the bench, resting his chin on his hands, taking a moment of pleasure in his busy schedule. To say that showing up to entertain male monks is a no-nonsense, duty-bound task, but for women, Chen Lingjun is not Jing Dafeng, let alone an old cook. It is really a bit of a chore. Thinking back in the past, in Yujiang, although the house was full of friends and happy all day long, it was not the slightest ignorance of the world of people on the mountain, welcoming and sending off either grievances or business. Not to mention those yuanying old gods who only hear their names but don't see their shapes. Even Jin Dan can afford to say that they can cover the sky with one hand. Only the brother of the Yujiang water god, Yu Kan, who is the host, is here. Before opening the mansion, it was because of some hidden encounters in the mountains in the early years, and the relationship with Shen Gaozong, that he and a certain reincarnated disciple of Qi Zhenjuan, the Taoist lord of the one continent and the blessed land in his hand, helped to give Yujiang bestowed a treasure talisman similar to an imperial order to open the mansion, and only then did the resplendent Qingjian water mansion later appear, with an arrogated shape, just like a dragon palace. On land. There is no reason to think of a female Qi refiner in the Qingjianshui mansion. She has never known her origin. She is not bad in appearance and not very beautiful. They are all private rhetoric from friends. Some say that she is the concubine or concubine of the water Yukan, and some say that she is a poor person who came here to seek refuge. Knowing that she lives in seclusion all year round, saves food and money, and is too stingy, she really has a determination to pursue the way even if she dies in this life, which is probably the so-called death in the Book of Jiguai. Unfortunately, her fate was not good. I don't know her very well, and maybe we haven't talked a few words together, so Chen Lingjun didn't feel sad about her ending, but just felt that there were some things that shouldn't be like this, but the result was like this, that's it. Chen Lingjun is not sentimental. On the mountain, only when he thinks of the old people on the other side of the Yujiang River, can he show some emotions that match his appearance. The accumulation is not high. There are many difficulties here. How can the word hard work describe them all? Qing Jia was a little surprised when he heard the words, and sincerely praised, fellow Taoist, great advice. Chen Lingjun waved his hands again and again, and said with a laugh, I don't mean to say that these literary words are all borrowed from Brother Dafeng. Qing Jia was obviously skeptical. Chen Lingjun grinned and said, as long as he meets a good-looking woman, he will go crazy, and he is actually a very smart person. Qing Jia declined to comment on this. Before coming to Luopa Mountain to recognize ancestors, Qing Jia still did some solid homework. Leaving aside the fact that the mountain lord Qin Pingan was a hermit official, Haran Tianxia's Qi trainers know more about the inside story than she does in Wildland. It's a pity that there are too few landscape mansion newspapers about Luopa Mountain. When Qing Jia arrived at the boundary of Aquarius Island, she wanted to get some paper content at the ferry on the mountain or at the Xianjia Inn, but she never thought it would be impossible to find. Qi practitioners mentioned it occasionally, and it was mostly gossip. Qing Jia knew it was the kind of nonsense and did not break the law when she heard it. It's just an inconspicuous little sect on the top of a small mountain. At most, it is regarded as a vassal of Piyun Mountain, helping Dali Wei Shanjun to launder some shady money into the clean silver of Beiyue treasury, so it is not worth reporting to the mansion on the mountain. It is not appropriate for the immortal mansion to go to the bottom of how to spend pen and ink. After all, there are too many investigations. The chief official and the goddess showed it to Mr. Wei Shan. Wouldn't it be a waste of time to talk about it in vain? In this way, it would be tantamount to having a bad relationship with a northern mountain. At that time, Piyun Mountain will remember the grudge, reciprocate, and send an invitation letter for a night banquet directly to the door, to go or not to go. If you don't go, you will slap Wei Shanjun in the face. If you go, how should you prepare the gift? Who doesn't know that the foot of Beiyue Mountain is called, it is a must. How many sects of the immortal family who came to congratulate with gifts have suffered a great loss here, just because they underestimated the extravagance of their peers and had to temporarily increase the amount of gifts. Let me have a better life, then I will pay for it myself first, put it on the mat, and then report to the sect later, and raise the established congratulatory gift to another level, so as not to make the later ones feel better. When the young Yingguan quietly returned to his hometown from the Great Wall of Sword Qi, and then he led a team to ask about the sword at Jingyang Mountain, it happened to be at the stage when the Confucian Temple banned Haran Mansion newspapers. It was obvious that the Confucian Temple was instructed to suppress news on purpose. I don't want Luoba Mountain and Qin Pingan to be too famous. There is a tacit agreement between the Confucian Temple of China and the Great Li Dynasty. No wonder it is difficult to find a page the size of a tofu block in the Shanshui Mansion newspaper in Aquarius Island. Now in Aquarius Island, it is recognized that there are 3 odd and 2 weird in Luoba Mountain. One oddity is in a sect with the first word head. There are very few genealogical monks. The second oddity is in a sect on a mountain. There are many martial arts masters. The third oddity is in a righteous sect, and there are many mountain ghosts. The strange thing is that the latecomers from Luopa Mountain were able to make Wan Qiong, who was the first to establish the identity of the sect, the Longquan sword sect, forced out of the old Lizhu cave world, and had to relocate to the north. You need to know Wan Qiong. But the Dali dynasties, the chief priest never thought of making room for Luoba Mountain. Luopa Mountain is at its peak and unstoppable, so one can imagine it. Presumably, it was because when Chen Jianxian was young and down, in his hometown, what kind of conflict did he have with Wan Qiong, who was the last saint in Lizhu Dongtian? Now that they meet again on the Dao, or in the imperial palace of Dali City, does sect master Wan need to give way to Chen Jianxian? There is also a strange thing, that is, the guardian of Luopa Mountain is enshrined. Now the outside world only knows that his surname is Shou. It is only said that during her visit to Jingyang Mountain, she intentionally suppressed her realm to an extremely low cave level from beginning to end, and she is the only monk who has no eyes on the sword fairy of Jingyang Mountain. Not to mention Jingyang Mountain with sword repair like a cloud, it is not worth her shot at all, and it is not even worthy of her showing a little bit of Dao Qi. Don't look at her skinny appearance of a little girl in black, it must be that she has profound skills, rejuvenated, and her cultivation base is bottomless. Occasionally, there are some objections, wondering if there is a possibility that the state enshrined in that week is actually the state that everyone saw. It was just that there was news soon, which proved the absurdity of this statement and completely dispelled doubts and disputes. And these few news spread from the main city of Jianchi Great Wall in the early years to the Mirage in the north, and then spread to the intercontinental ferries of the old Dragon City through the upside-down mountain, and finally arrived at Aquarius Island. Cultivator Zhou realized later that in this matter, Chen Jianxian was the last hermit official of the Great Wall of Sword Qi. It turned out that in the Great Wall of Sword Qi, Zhou enshrined was a famous and well-known figure who was often called by the local people. Jinqiu mentioned the big water monster known as the Dumb Lake. Where is the Great Wall of Sword Qi? The local sword cultivators over there, with their eyes higher than the top, can't even look down on the whole Houran Tianxia. How many foreigners can they look up to? What's more, the monsters, who want to gain a firm foothold in the Great Wall of Sword Qi, have a saying. If I remember correctly, isn't there only the number one great sword immortal like that old deaf child? It really was a great opportunity. Before Chen Jianxian made his fortune at that young age, he was able to invite such a fierce general from Luzhou, Beiju, to sit on the top of the mountain and protect the mountains and rivers. Qing Jia asked in a heartfelt voice, "Fellow Taoist Jing Qing, could this be the Zhou priest of your Lupo mountain?" Chen Lingjun stretched out his hand to say hello to Meili, and said with a heartfelt smile, "Yes, her name is Zhou Meili, and she is patrolling the mountains. In our family, she has the most official titles. For some things, the two senior brothers of the Master of the Mountain, you have to listen to her. Our Zhou protector's official authority is very great." The speaker has no intention but the listener has intention. Qing Jia's heart skipped a beat. Two brothers. When Xing only has a few direct disciples in total, those senior brothers of the young hermit official, whoever picks out two at random, Cui Chan, Zhua Zhua, Lu Shilu, Qi Jingchen. Qing Jia had already concluded that this water monster, contrary to the rumors of the outside world, was actually a cave, and it was absolutely true. Now she didn't dare to make any judgments again. The little girl in black who was bouncing around saw Jing Qing's waving first, and then saw the strange woman in plain and elegant dress. He hurriedly held his breath and concentrated on walking seriously, and quickly came to the gazebo, holding a green bamboo stick and a golden pole in his arms, saluting, "It's a pleasure to meet the immortal master." Generally speaking, being able to go up the mountain is not too much of an outsider. Qing Jia returned the gift and said, "Jing Qingjia in Jinsui City, I am honored to have met Zhou in Xin." The little girl in black nodded. She was not good at greeting strangers, so she immediately turned cold. Qing Jia took the lead and said with a smile, "I used to hear about Qin Shan's wine shop and the name of Dumb Lake wine in the wilderness Jinsui City." The little girl was timid and tentatively asked, "Really?" Qing Jia said with a smile, "There is absolutely no falsehood." Millet Bean suddenly beamed with joy. "Good reputation, ha. It's a household name, ah. The big water monster of Dumb Lake is not tall and has a good reputation. Famous all over the world, there is more than one, oh. As for the realm, it's all a misunderstanding, hey, little misunderstanding, hey." Qing Jia is still wondering about the true Taoism of the little girl in front of her. Could it be that she is really the kind of a real person who has achieved the Tao, who has returned to the basics and possessed the so-called heart of a child in Taoism? Originally, she was on a mountain tour, so she was happy to accompany Jing Qing and Yuan Hu Immortal to take another trip to Ji Se Peak. Qing Jia looked at the little girl, who was leading the way ahead, and shook her head. It is not worth being surprised that there are dragons and crouching tigers hidden in the desolate mountain, so I will not guess the cultivation level of this mountain guard. Chen Lingjun suddenly pointed to the cliff carving beside the road. "Fellow Yuan Hu Taoist, what do you think of these words?" Qing Jia glanced at it, nodded in appreciation and said, "It's a first-class cursive script with excellent skills, like a strong man drawing a sword, his spirit is flying." Chen Lingjun had already prepared the manuscript, and immediately followed up, it was carved by Jing Dafeng. Even my master Shanju said that he is not weak in academic ability, and he has boyish skills. Brother Dafeng, I can only help here. It is said that women cover all their ugliness with nothing, but poor men have nothing to do with their ugliness. Qing Jia held back a question that had been accumulated for a long time in her heart, and she couldn't figure it out. She had asked Mr. Zheng before, but Mr. Zheng seemed to know the answer, but he deliberately didn't say it, and asked her to ask the master when she arrived at Luoba Mountain. This doubt is why Chen Pingan chose Luopa Mountain as the dojo, the foundation of establishing a school, Luopa. Not a very good way to say it. People down the mountain pay attention to auspicious words, and people on the mountain will only taboo more. Regarding this matter, even the monks in their hometown in the wild world have speculated a lot, arguing and arguing, but there is no conclusion. Qing Jia hesitated and said, I have a question, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask. She immediately laughed at herself, guessing that she really saw the young hermit official. No matter how curious she was, she dared not ask in person. Xiao Milite scratched her face, and frowned at Jing Qing. Jing Qing, you are the one to answer. Chen Lingjun has always been a big-hearted person, he laughed and said, fellow Daoist, just ask, I'm sure I'll know everything without talking about it. Outside the mountains, I might have to be a little more cautious. In the mountains, on my own land, with the backing of the mountain master, I am full of courage. Qing Jia asked, the name of this mountain is Down and Out, is there a hidden university question? As a result, Chen Lingjun was blinded as soon as he heard it. Fellow Daoist Yuan Hu asked tricky questions. He really never thought about such a question that is so close at hand. Coughing a few times, implying that Xiaomi Li, you have nothing to talk to the master of the mountain, do you have a ready-made answer? Xiaomi Li and Chen Lingjun had a very good understanding, and immediately turned their heads and smiled. Before I came to Luopa Mountain, I asked the owner of the good mountain, and he said that Luopa Mountain was an ancient name in the county annals of my hometown. I went to the mountain for inspection, and saw that this place is more eye-catching, so I spent money to buy it, and the good mountain owner didn't think too much about it at that time. In fact, Chen Pingan told her more, involving some confidential inside stories that are not known to outsiders. Millet grains don't know how to pour beans in a bamboo tube, and they only say 3 sentences when they meet people, so they can't give up all their hearts. Qing Jia nodded, and stopped asking the bottom line. After thinking about it, she couldn't help asking again, 2 friends, this opportunity is rare. I have another question. I don't want to talk about it. Everyone knows that there are 3 souls and 7 souls in the human body. Haran sages recorded in ancient books that the essence of human beings life the soul, and the body is called the soul. Taoism also said that the soul is the of the sun, and the soul is the of the yin. But since ancient times, the secrets of spiritual books for refining qi and cultivating immortals, as well as the practice of our generation of monks the way is that the Jin Dan realm allows the yin god to travel far away, and the nascent soul realm creates a yang god body and outer body. The former is virtual, like a soul traveling between heaven and earth, and the latter is real, which is more suitable for the body. There is an ambiguity with yang soul and yin soul. Dare to ask the 2 fellow Taoists, how do you explain the truth here? Is the ancient writing wrong, or have we gone astray in our cultivation? The little girl leading the way walked faster. The little boy in Tsingyi didn't even fling his sleeves up, he had to call for help. First he called Brother Dafeng with his heart, saying that the opportunity has come. That fellow Daoist Yuan Hu asked a good question, you should rush over to help answer it. If you can't say it, I will look at you with admiration. Jing Dafeng didn't pay attention to him, so Chen Lingjun could only repeat Wei Bo's divine title, Knight Tour, in his heart, and Wei Bo asked what was the matter. Chen Lingjun quickly explained the situation. Wei Bo gave a reward. Chen Lingjun had no choice but to continue to shout Jing Dafeng with his heart. If he didn't come to save the situation, the brothers would just do it in the future. Xing Dafeng, who was busy instructing the young girl Chao Yang on boxing techniques on the other side of the mountain, had no choice but to say goodbye, rose against the wind, and landed on the side of the mountain road in an instant, with an elegant figure, and when his feet touched the ground, the man trembled slightly sleeves, facing Qing Jia's smiling face. Leaving aside his appearance and temperament, he is indeed somewhat of a master. Xing Dafeng gathered his voice together and complained with Qin Lingjun, "It's not that you don't understand, I'm used to traveling the rivers and lakes to rely on my face for food, and metaphysics is not my specialty." Qin Lingjun rolled his eyes and said, "Stop talking nonsense and do business. Don't let outsiders think that we are uneducated in Luopa Mountain." Xing Dafeng felt helpless, so he had to ask Qing Jia to repeat the question. After listening to it, he was relieved and surprised me. It turned out that it was a question asked by a schoolboy. His mother thought that Sister Yuanhu was going to ask how to ascend to the sky in one step. But Xing Dafeng had to deliberately pretend to ponder for a while, and then replied with a smile, "Li Xing created characters, but he personally interpreted and defined them, but there are not many. If I remember correctly, there is a sentence, the prosperity of ghosts. It is necessary to know the earliest ancient seal characters of the two characters of soul. Qi refiners, known as Taoists in ancient times, what they do is to go upstream against the current, steal yin and yang, seize good fortune, turn the sky and the earth's axis, and rely on this to transcend the ordinary and become a saint, becoming an immortal and an ancestor." Qin Jia seemed to realize something when he heard the words. Xing Dafeng smiled and said, "Talk a few more off-topic words." Qin Jia said solemnly, "I would like to hear the details, and listen carefully." Xing Dafeng walked side by side with her, and said with a smile, 10,000 years ago, it was ancient times. In the battle of ascension to heaven, the heavenly court was broken, and the divine way collapsed. With great development, those immortal talents with destiny and good luck, who have heard the Tao and passed through the Tao, sword, opened up and searched for the heavens and blessed places, and are at ease, wanting to be with the heaven and the earth. Secondly, to live long, to achieve the realm of real people on land, often live in the world. You can have a moment of joy again, the soul is separated after all, and the boundary between yin and yang is unclear. 7,000 years ago, in ancient times, a group of ancient gods survived, occupying part of the old gods, and each performed their duties. It's just a reduction. Jiaolong is still responsible for the cloud and rain, the city god's temple began to appear in the world, and the brand new gods sealed by the court belong to the Orthodox, and there are so many obscene temples in various places, sharing the incense in the world, lest the old gods hide in them and take the opportunity to revive. To put it simply, function is to distract the gods. Year after year, saying goodbye to the old and ushering in the new, the Chinese Confucian temple has established the tradition of ringing the spring drum every year. A warning. 5,000 years ago was the Middle Ages, and 3,000 years was marked by the battle of killing the dragon. Today, it is generally regarded as modern times by the Qi refiners on the mountain. Now this rain, you and I are just in time. A new turning point. As for how the future generations will decide, we have to wait another 1,000 years. In addition to the rites of making characters 10,000 years ago, the Sage of Rites is incomparable. About 8,000 years ago, he also worked with experts to formulate more detailed rules. Howran followed the ancient rituals established by the Sages of Rites to build temples. Temple, enshrining the gods and masters, compiling family trees, offering incense and offering sacrifices. The 3 souls and 7 souls of a person are linked to life and death. They live in the world and live in the yang world. In the temple, the body is buried, and each has its own place. The soul will be worshipped forever because it belongs to the ancestral temple. It is the destiny. When the burial needs to be wailed 3 times and a coffin is said to seal the coffin, it is considered that the coffin has settled down. Therefore, apart from the number of souls, they have different destinations, and there is still a distinction between primary and secondary. The soul ascends to the sky, and the soul lives underground. Of course, the patriarchs of the three religions are powerful, but I only admire Li Xing. Chen Lingjun was startled when he heard it, and he really saw Brother Dafeng right. There is something. Even if it is nonsense and nonsense, if you can compile so much at once without taking a breath, it is quite quick-witted, right? It's just that when Chen Lingjun heard the last sentence, he quickly kicked Jing Dafeng secretly. Please speak slowly, don't be so indifferent. Qing Jia stopped, turned sideways and had a chat with the man, and said solemnly, "Thank you, Mr. Gua, for your teaching. It's as if you see the sun through the clouds, and you're enlightened." Jing Dafeng hurriedly dodged, and said with a smile, "It's just a few idle words, I can't afford the great gift of Yuan Hu Daoist." Qing Jia was in high spirits, adding more color, and becoming more and more beautiful. "It was really shocking. Can you go to Mr. S' house to disturb me later?" Jing Dafeng shook his head, patted his stomach with a smile. "I'm not well educated, I'm already empty, and if I talk about it again, it'll show my timidity." It is indisputable that Jing Dafeng has already left Yufeng. Qing Jia still wanted to persuade her to stay, so she stretched out her arms, but hesitated for a moment, and gave up. Experts outside the world, nothing more than that. And the handsome and unrestrained man who traveled far away was still secretly delighted. This one is playing hard to get, it's perfect, it's absolutely amazing. Where did he talk about that sister's heart to ask was not firm enough. Standing where she was, she just let out a long sigh and let it go. When Jing Dafeng arrived at the gate of the mountain, he didn't care about talking to Xian Wei, and ran to the room to tidy up the bedding, shaking the foot of the bed. It was very firm, and it would definitely not creak. Xian Wei was a little curious, so he went to the house. Jing Dafeng wiped his mouth, walked like flying, and shouted, "It'll help watch the door, you just need to rest." Xian Wei went in without knowing it, but he was happy to sneak in, so he went to his own room. The plaque in the study room was written by Jing Dafeng with a pen. The old cook helped to make a plaque called Su Xian. A golden lacquer ancient seal characters. Style. The real gold paint. In fact, Xian Wei still has several alternative titles for his study, such as reading the unseen study, or rereading the already seen study. In life, if you want to be pleasing to the eye and enjoy the happiness, it is nothing more than reading new books that you have not seen, and saying goodbye to old people you know well. It's just that after thinking about it, Xian Wei still feels that he can't forget his roots in life. This Taoist name has been with him for many years, and hanging there is just a reminder that he has suffered. Xian Wei went into the study room and took out the two serious books in his sleeves. Almost all the study offerings on the table were sent by Nuanshu, and every New Year and festival, he added one, and the accumulation made a lot. Sitting on a chair with a 4-year-old official hat, he took out a Taoist book from a small mountain of books on the desk. The name is a bit long, and it is Yuqing Jinju Qinghua Secret Text Jinbao Ni Alchemy Formula. Xian Wei has a habit of reading, he likes to read prefaces and postscripts. After entering Luopa Mountain, the secrets of Daoist scriptures that I never dared to dream of before can be obtained at my fingertips, but this habit has not changed. The reason is very simple, except for the beginning and end, the middle ones, I can't understand it. The characters are naturally recognizable, and when they are connected together, Xian Wei can see it like a cloud, inexplicable, and always feel that he can't understand it, which is of no benefit. Not to mention the relatively pragmatic Taoist book at hand, it is the detailed explanation process. One by one, the secrets of the immortal family's cultivation that marked the pass and practice method. Xian Wei read it, but still didn't read it. Not annoyed by this, Xianwei has always known that he is not a real fairy seed, does not have the root of the Taoism, and it is a fluke to be able to cultivate spells by mistake and become a second-level Qi trainer. The job of guarding the door is actually just a matter of taking a seat. When he has free time, Xianwei will come to the study to drink by himself, drink some old wine, have 2 snacks, read books, and play chess and scores. Don't look at Daoist Xianwei, who has to watch the door every day, and he has never missed his homework day and night every day. He dare not be lazy in the slightest, worried about losing his job and wandering in the rivers and lakes again. It's just that Xianwei thinks that he is limited by his talent, and his progress is slow. He was not too impatient before, but he knew that Luopa Mountain doesn't care about the level of the realm, so it's okay to muddle through. Now he has accepted an apprentice, and he is still a serious disciple. In addition, Lin Feijing's realm is not low now. According to Wei Shanjun, this son has a deep foundation of Taoism, and his immortal bones are not light. The point is that the realm of the disciple is higher than that of the master. It's shameless, we Xianwei Daoist are a little embarrassed. In fact, Wei Bao's statement is a pun. It seems to be congratulating the Taoist master Xianwei, but it is actually praising Lin Feijing's profound fortune and extraordinary fortune. He was able to worship him as a teacher and became a Taoist in the name of Xianwei, the big disciple on the road. But Xianwei didn't know the twists and turns here. Because of the disheartened practice of Taoism, he finally became a little bit determined to win. The Taoist priest, who has been dreaming almost every day since he can remember, has not dreamed for 9 consecutive days. Xianwei didn't pay much attention to this. Living in seclusion in the mountains, keeping the door behind closed doors, burning incense late at night, and warding off sleep demons, is already a blessing. Supplemented by reading, it is the first good way for our generation of scholars to settle their souls. After reading Taoist scriptures for a while, yawning, and needing to refresh himself, Xianwei changed to a book that could be read by following the folds and jumping, and it was like a god's help, killing millions of sleepy people. It was also about reading. Weibo hid in Beiyu's reading room. The previous night banquet was too busy, so it was slow. In the past, I met people who were not good, and wanted to hold a night banquet in a different way, but I just held one if I had some excuses. Now that I have a name, it should come to an end. At the moment there is something that needs to be discussed with Chen Pingan. It turns out that the Dali court is about to secretly send a group of Taoist embryos with immortal roots and good talents who have practiced martial arts since childhood, a total of 16 people. Half of them belong to related households, and they are the children of Dallas' top wealthy aristocratic families, or good seedlings found and cultivated by these families. The other half are kendo geniuses and martial arts prodigies carefully selected by Dali Nianganlang from various countries in the south of Aquarius continent. And it is said that in another year or 2, the second batch will be sent, and try to strive for all of them to be sword cultivators. Disturbed by Chen Lingjun, Wei Bo put down the books at hand, walked out of the room barefoot, stood under the eaves, and habitually reached out to twist the golden earring. Thinking of people in the mirror, it is even more amazing to see through the clouds. Zhongyue Jinqing has always spoken frankly, saying that Wei Bo's Piyun Mountain is very fragrant, and the reason why he can top the 5 mountains is because of his face. Wei Bo didn't bother to refute, so he just accepted it. According to the previous schedule of Fijian's letter transmission, those young girls will arrive at Nujiadu by a military ferry in 2 days. Chen Pingan is not in the mountains recently, maybe he is busy, or he may have his own plans, anyway. Without an immediate reply to the Ministry of Punishment, the Dali court could not help but worry that the door would be shut down. But don't send the person, you have to go back to the house on the same day. Even His Majesty the Emperor knew about it, so he asked the Ministry of Rights after sending a secret letter to Piyun Mountain. Weibo had no choice but to go to the Ministry of Criminal Affairs in the capital himself, and asked with a smile, "Is there a third batch?" The other party choked for a moment. One continent, another mountain, no matter if you are the Shingaozong or the Yunlin clan with profound heritage, you would wish for someone to help send these young talents to your home. Only Luopa Mountain really has enough confidence to say that he doesn't want this. What's more, the news that Chen Pingan is now the new national teacher is completely unknown to the outside world, and the senior management of Dali knows it all. It is true that Luopa Mountain has been closed for 20 years, and Weibo doesn't think that Chen Pingan will reject these children. A large part of the reason is more interesting. Chen Pingan, who is the husband and the suzerain of the last sect, obviously feels the pressure brought by the Qingping sword sect. It can't be a full 20 years. Watching the Xiazong be in full swing and flourishing, the Luopa Mountain is really closed, and it has been deserted. Chen Pingan even started to prepare for an important matter, arranging a detailed legal system for Luoba Mountain, and personally reviewing and compiling the books, Qi refining Dao books and martial arts secret books. Therefore, the only problem that needs to be considered is probably which mountain to place those children on. They will definitely not be placed in the Luopa Mountain like Chao Yin and Chao Yang. This is beyond doubt. Cui Dongshan and Pei Qian bought it not long ago. The nearby Tiaoyu Mountain and Fuyola Mountain are very close to Luopi Mountain, and the Huimeng Mountain belonging to Yunzi Daochang is also close to the main mountain, so it is more suitable. If you deliberately separate Qi practitioners and martial arts practitioners, it would be more appropriate to jump to Yushan Mountain and Fuyolu respectively. Weibo suddenly cursed a few words. Damn it, this is a family matter in Luoba Mountain, why should I worry about it? Complaints belong to complaints, things still have to be done, such as Lu Yong from Qinghu Palace who came from afar. Since Chen Pingan is not in the mountains, he has to go to Luoba Mountain. Because Lu Yong was not an ordinary guest, Chen Pingan was very nostalgic, so Weibo put on his boots first, then stepped out, came to the door of a house, and knocked on the door knocker. Lu Yong opened the door, and when he saw Wei Shinjun coming in person, he hurriedly saluted and congratulated him. Weibo already knew the purpose of Lu Yong's trip, so he didn't beat around the bush, and said with a smile, "It's reasonable, Master Lu doesn't have to go through this personally at all. The relationship between the two families is not a casual acquaintance, put it under the mountain, it is the good of the whole family. In terms of love, Master Lu has to come to Luopa Mountain. In the past, he really walked too little, and it was Lord Qin who disturbed the Qinghu Palace. He must come here and let Luopa Mountain do his best as a landlord. As for Zhao Zhu's appointment as guest minister of Luoba Mountain, he has a chair in the Patriarch Hall of Jisa Peak. Daoist Lu just needs to be reassured, it's already a certainty." Lu Yong had mixed feelings when he heard this. On the one hand, Wei Shinjun, who had never thought of dealing with him before, was willing to value himself and Qinghu Palace so much. It was even more unexpected that Wei Shinjun was an outsider from Luobashan, or half an outsider, and he dared to make such a guarantee. Chen Shanju must have mentioned Qinghu Palace to Wei Shinjun from time to time. Weibo asked with a smile, "Did Chen Lingjun mention that this house is specially reserved by Chen Shanju for Master Lu?" Chen Lingjun didn't say anything, but the old man stroked his beard and smiled and said, "Daoist Jingqing has already said it. It's really disrespectful, and I'm ashamed to accept it." Weibo pointed to the couplet, smiled and said, "It was written by Chen Pingan himself, the only copy." The old real man looked over there, he was taken aback for a moment, he was silent for a long time, and murmured, "I can't afford it, and I am even more ashamed of it." Generosity and righteousness, regardless of small details, gold and silver come back again. Make friends widely, treat each other honestly, and the characters will become more and more prosperous as time goes by. Weibo smiled and said, "I'm going back to Piyin Mountain first, and Master Lu is welcome to visit me at any time." Only then did Lu Yong think of something, and he was about to take out a congratulatory gift from his sleeve. It's a great gift for a real person to walk on the ground. Wei Bo stretched out his hand to lightly hold the old man's arm, smiled and shook his head and said, "No matter how many, it's hypocritical." "Why, you only regard Chen Pingan as a friend and not me." Lu Yong was speechless for a while, just clasped his fists. Sword of Coming Chapter 1095. Chen Pingan changed into a robe. The sky and the earth are white, and the robes are bright red. The tall trees and the snow are extremely red. On the high side of the city, for some reason, Zhou Mi's figure shrunk down to that of an ordinary person. It wasn't until this moment that Ma Kuxuan knew that he had finally met the Lord, and he was quite surprised. When did Chen Pingan enter the ancestral hall, and he was sitting at the door before, and he didn't notice it? Ma Kuxuan thought he didn't underestimate Chen Pingan's morality. He did not hesitate to take risks, violated his wish, and used the lightning magic power that he hated earlier, but in the end, Chen Pingan just used a clone to deal with him. Originally thought that moving out of this careful planning, even if Chen Pingan survived, he should lose his morality, and the immortal who had just joined would fall back to Yupu. Ma Kuxuan asked in his heart, what happened to releasing Chen Pingan's heart demon? What if he sees it through? Just strike while the iron is hot. This guy has been fighting for a long time and has a lot of eyes, but don't be fooled. He fooled it. This is the reason why Ma Kuxuan was in the big formation before but didn't mind it. You, Chen Pingan, took the lead, but you didn't know that the mantis stalked the cicada and the oriole, and wanted to overwhelm the leader. It's not that simple. Logically speaking, the inner demons of cultivators are most abundant when they are at the bottleneck of the nascent soul realm, and when they are retreating to enter the upper 5 realms, because this is the only way for ancient Taoists to cross this barrier. As long as Zhou Mi uses some long-lost ancient magical powers to open the cage of the mind and release Chen Ping's inner demons, then this formation that separates the world and helps Chen Pingan gain a favorable location will become his way to face the inner demons. The biggest difficulty is that the world here is more spotless, and the demons are more innocent, and the demons that Chen Pingan faces will be more like Chen Pingan himself. At that time, the Tao will be 1 foot taller and the devil will be 10 feet taller. At that time, Chen Pingan will have to face, besides Ma Kuxuan, the imaginary counterfeit Zhou Mi, plus the inner demon Chen Pingan, there will be 3 immortals. Zhou Mi smiled and replied, "It's not that I can't let it go, but it's unnecessary. Chen Pingan's demons are very weird. To us, they have no killing power at all and are meaningless. Demon, from the beginning to the end, it is just watching the show on the wall." Ma Kuxuan couldn't help scolding his mother, "I just said this guy is a monster." Zhou Mi said, "My existence makes him jealous. From this, it can be seen that my real body makes him have an unusually deep memory." Ma Kuxuan said casually, "How many people are there worthy of Cui Qin and Qi Jingchen joining forces to fight against the enemy? What's more, the incarnation outside the body that spreads out, the golden body and Dharma image that follow the sky and the earth, are all learned by Qi practitioners from the sky and used on the earth. So this is also why Zhou Mi said that the road is broken, because Ma Kuxuan is now in the realm of immortals, and it is impossible to build a second bridge in a short time. What's more, Ma Kuxuan and the Ministry of Lei borrowed this heavenly tribulation thunder pond. They were already suspected of being guarded and stolen. It is the price that the imaginary enemy of immortal realm must pay. Fortunately, he has always been the kind of person who does things based on his mood and preferences, and ignores his head." Ma Kuxuan asked in his heart, "How is the progress of dismantling the formation?" Zhou Mi said calmly, "Very slowly, far below expectations, his flying sword rank is not low. Besides, we must prevent it from arousing the enemy." Ma Kuxuan said helplessly, "I have been repeatedly taught by this guy to fight. It's best not to quarrel. Of course you don't care." No matter how thick-skinned I am, I won't be good at it. Zhou Mi turned a deaf ear, with one hand behind his back, and the other clenched a fist across his abdomen, holding 2 chess pieces in his palm, rubbing them lightly, creaking, not staring at Qin Pingan, but staring at that piece of skin, which has now become a piece of immortality. It is destined to be a magic robe that has never been seen before or since. A fairy weapon bearing the real name of the monster clan is indeed very interesting. Even if Qin Pingan gave it to a cultivator in the Ascension realm, the other party would not dare to wear it. Zhou Mi seemed to be explaining the origin of Qin Pingan's real body to Ma Kuxuan. There are only 2 possibilities to hide the way of this instant attack from you. 1. He is beheading the culprit, destroying Wushan, the city. The inscription on the head, after returning to Hauran, actually did not return Lu Chen's cultivation base, but stayed in the 14 false realms, 2 realms higher than yours, and borrowed Lu Chen's mixed Taoism. No. Second, Fei Jian's natal supernatural powers can not only isolate the world, but also can do whatever he wants, start a new stove, and recreate the world. Qin Jianxian, is there something wrong? Qin Pingan stretched out an arm with a smile, and spread his palms, indicating to continue. For a cultivator, the feeling of being beheaded with the 3 flowers of the Tiangong on his head and forcibly dissipating his merits with external force is not good. Qin Pingan had to behead me to get out of trouble. He really needed to rest for a while. Fortunately, the beheaded things do not flow to outsiders, anyway, they are still scattered in this cage, and they can be taken back sooner or later. Be sure to give a level assessment, which is roughly equivalent to being half-punched by an 11th level martial artist. Ma Kuxuan wanted to delay time for Zhou Mi so that he could break the barrier between heaven and earth. Qin Pingan also needed a breath of pure qi, and secretly changed some layouts temporarily, each taking what he needed. In this fight where no one knows the details of the other side for the time being, neither side can make a wrong move. Everyone wants to get rid of the other party. Ma Kuxuan is unwilling to follow the path of God, and Qin Pingan certainly does not accept the fall. But both sides have an intuition that at a certain moment, just one click, life and death can be decided. Or some magical power of Ma Kuxuan, or a certain fist or sword of Qin Pingan. Zhou Mi said, in this way, he has at least 2 natal flying swords. Together with the world, build a framework, set boundaries, invite the king into the urn, and the host invites a fine wine or a toast, it depends on the mood. Together, all things rely on a golden essence. The long river of time created by copper coins allows him to arrange freely on both sides of the bank. The 2 flying swords and the 2 supernatural powers can be described as seamless when matched together. It is equivalent to a saint of the 3 religions carrying a dojo that could not be migrated. Comparing the 2, those who are inferior can't raise a realm, and the advantage is that from ancient times to the present, all directions are in this realm. Ma Kuxuan was very troubled, frowned and said, can't it be a natal flying sword with several supernatural powers? Zhou Mi smiled knowingly, forget about the 10 young people in the world that Zhou Zi raided. You are not surprised why only Shan Zhe Yeshio and Jian Xiu Lu Kai, who were born out of nowhere, were deliberately pointed out by Zhou Zi. The name, root and foot of Feijin. Even the 2 Yangjian gourds owned by Lu Kai. It is clear that Zhou Zi meant something, just like a letter, telling the world, so there is no need to hand over the letter to someone got it. Lu Guan is the only genius who made it to the list at the Jindan stage. On the other hand, the last hermit official Qin Shishir who was at the bottom of the list was able to rank here because he was both a swordsman at the nascent soul stage and a warrior at the Yufeng stage. Row. If my guess is correct, the flying sword by Luo that is warmly nourished in the Yang Jian gourd's mind, the sword suddenly hits the poor by Luo, it must be deliberately targeted at Qin Jianxian. Zhou Mi raised his hand and rolled up his sleeves. This is a vast world. Let the sky be as high as the earth and the earth as wide as you want, the yin and yang are in harmony, and the avenues circulate here in an orderly manner. Sword repair can break 10,000 spells with one sword, and Lu Guan can break 10,000 with one sword. The sword, ascending to the poor and falling to the underworld, and the cages and barriers have become false. Another sword-raising gourd of Taoist ancestor immediately, Lu Kai used it to refine the sword White Horse, which happened to defeat the long river of time between heaven and earth. In short, 2 swords restrain 2 swords, just happened to be extremely hard work. Chen Ping clapped his palms and said with a smile, "It's amazing. Although it's a fake, it's still far from the next level authentic one, so it's not too clumsy." Ma Kuxuan said, "Don't forget that you are the one at the bottom, and you can still be so happy." Chen Ping smiled and said, "I am the bottom of the 10 young people in the world, so you are the top 10 young people in Aquarius Island. Are you happy?" Ma Kuxuan twitched the corner of his mouth. Chen Pingan said, "Could it be that Zhou Zi greeted you in private when he made the list, and you thought you would rather be a chicken head than a phoenix tail, so you gave me the bottom position?" Ma Kuxuan stretched out his hands and rubbed his cheeks, then grinned and said, "Sometimes you cry." Chen Ping smiled and said, "Ma Kuxuan, you have a bad habit brought from your mother's womb, that is, you don't want to see others good, and you want to overwhelm others with everything. And you only do things that you think you can do well. Ku Xian, this is not good, you have to change. Of course, the premise is that you still have a chance to reform yourself." Ma Kuxuan was very disgusted by the sentence, Kuxuan. Zhou Mi glanced at the bright red in the snow. Ma Kuxuan sneered, "The old scholar's deadly enemy said that being a good teacher is a serious problem for people. I heard that you are not satisfied with reasoning, so why don't you just go to the village and become a teacher?" Chen Pingan said, "I think there are 2 major problems with human beings. Apart from being good at being a teacher taught by the sages, there is another problem, that is, being ashamed of being a disciple." Ma Kuxuan was speechless for a moment. Chen Ping took a deep breath. "Doesn't it seem unfeasible to choose to do all the work in one battle?" Zhou Mi ignored the bickering between the 2 fellow villagers and the same age, and said to himself, "The world mistakenly thinks that Lu Kai's appearance, from an unknown swordsman to one of the top 10 young people in the world, is due to destiny." Sheng, following the trend, was favored by heaven and earth, and felt that heaven did not want Ning Yao to be more beautiful than before. Just like among the younger generation, there was Chao Ci first on the road of martial arts, followed by Chen Jianxian. It seems that the way of swords should be the same. Only when Lu Kai was compared with Ning Yao, he felt that Lu Kai, after 100 years of sword practice, had a chance to compete with Ning Yao at the same stage of swordsmanship. No one expected that Lu Kai, a sword cultivator, would truly the one to deal with is not Ning Yao, but Chen Jianxian. I took bags of gold and copper coins and melted them into a long river of time. The creation of a small world is also due to the appearance of Lu Kai, and his 2 flying swords have given me a lot of inspiration. The implication is that knowing that Lu Kai is waiting for him on the road ahead, Chen Pingan not only did not detour, but went a step further. "Doesn't your white horse ignore the constraints of the long river of time? Then I will do everything possible to collect gold and copper coins everywhere, and keep throwing money away. Your Bai Luo claims to be able to break 10,000 swords with one sword. Then see how many 10,000 swords you can break, 10, 100. Zhou Mi suddenly realized, I'm not afraid to embrace the Tao and die, but am willing to walk straight, so this is the sword cultivator. Ma Kuxuan clicked his tongue and said, the head is really hard. Zhou Mi showed admiration, and said with a smile, it's a good habit to believe in fate but not to accept fate. Ma Kuxuan asked in his heart, how to say? Zhou Mi replied, it's a bit troublesome. It's not easy to get rid of the cocoon. I'm afraid there will be cocoons outside the cocoon. I can roughly infer that this place is one of the fantasy worlds. There are dozens of candidates. I have found the root of the cocoon so far. There are 32 of them, although their strength is definitely average, not as good as this great wall of sword chi, but it is not difficult for him to use them to get in the way at a critical moment and to destroy your attempt. Ma Kuxuan nodded. This guy has been thoughtful since he was a child, he is good at disguising, and he is very cunning. In terms of the city, Song Jisun was not worthy of carrying shoes for this neighbor. He is worthy of being a fellow. I am pretending to be a fool, and he is pretending. Good man, we all made it back then. Chen Pingan seemed to have guessed their intentions, and with a slightly sarcastic tone, he smiled and said, "It's useless to give you a chance." Zhou Mi suddenly said in his heart, "Be careful." Ma Kuxuan sneered and said, "Small heart, you continue to crack the barrier, it is best to smash it completely in one go. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. I'm not used to him anyway." In an instant, the heavens and the earth changed their forms, the sky was blue and beautiful, and there was not a single snowflake. The earth that was originally covered with snow was not white in an instant. At the same time, above the top of the city, a line cut across, and there was no sword light. The height of the horizontal line was just at the waist of Ma Kuxuan and Zhou Mi, as if there was an invisible sword fairy, and the sword was swung across the world. Just as Chen Pingan was about to speak, Zhou Mi walked forward slowly, and said with a smile, "Chen Jianxian will disappoint you with the swordsmanship of the engraver at the top of the city." Chen Pingan said, "I don't even dare to say my name. Is it because I am afraid that I will find your hiding place, or because I am worried that the real body will notice the clues? He will shatter your glazed golden body with a single thought." Zhou Mi said, "I don't dare to call you by his name. How dare Chen Jianxian call Zhou Mi by his name?" Chen Pingan smiled and said, "I'm a trash, so it doesn't prevent you from being even more trash." Zhou Mi said, "I have read 2 stories in a book. The protagonists in the story survived not because they are the protagonists, but because they survived to be the protagonists. The background of a story begins in a place called Nipping Lane in Huaihuang County. The protagonist is surnamed Qin. The other story earlier started with a scholarly family in Shenzhou, Middle-earth, and turned to the Great Wall of Sword Qi. The most chapters are in the wild world, and it ends with Haoren. The ending is temporarily undecided." Chen Pingan said suddenly, "Understood, good method." Sword of Coming Chapter 1096. Regardless of whether Chen Pingan really knew it or pretended to understand, Ma Kuxuan was indeed cheated. Taking advantage of Ma Kuxuan's mind stagnation and a moment of stunned, Chen Pingan was amnesty and the caged bird escaped. Taking a step back, there were ripples, and a portal was opened out of thin air behind him. Chen Ping's body was submerged in a secret landscape of mountains and rivers that Zhou Mi compared to a silkworm cocoon, and he left the fantasy world of the Great Wall of Sword Qi. The eye-catching bright red color was instantly lost in his field of vision. Ma Kuxuan couldn't see it clearly, but he didn't look anxious at all, but Zhou Mi saw the way at a glance, and explained, "Using the method of moving mountains is to make mountains come to my supernatural power. His move is just a deliberate cover-up. In short, he can switch the secret location at any time on his own territory, which is more straightforward than shrinking thousands of miles of ground veins into a square inch." Concealment. In ordinary disputes with the same border, remain invincible. Ma Kuxuan said, "Time is limited, so stop talking nonsense and lead me to catch up." Zhou Mi smiled and nodded, and patted himself on the head lightly, and 3 flowers gathered on the top, transforming into a golden Taoist crown that seemed to be pieced together from Baiyujing, Xianzanqing, Tuiyue Mountain and other places. Xian's restrained body was about the size of a mustard seed, turned into a rainbow light, and swept into the Taoist crown, like an ancient sitting in the center of the heaven. Zhou Mi took a closer look, followed the clues left by Chen Pingan's Dao Qi, strode forward, opened a door with both hands, and entered it, and came to a bustling market with a small bridge and flowing water. There was a sauce garden nearby. As long as the ordinary people on the street are close to Zhou, they will melt like snow and turn into nothingness by themselves. Zhou waved his sleeves, and a majestic aura swept out. All the pedestrians, buildings, and hilltops in this world were cut off from the top half. The back, collapsed and sunken everywhere, turned into ruins in the blink of an eye, and everything turned into dust and dust, floating between the sky and the earth. Far away, a ray of light flashed away. Zhou smiled, found it, and sat on the golden Makushuan in the Taoist crown, grasped the sword formula with his hand, and there was a sword light flying in the air like a dragon running through the water, sweeping out of the mountain top. It goes straight down the river, so this is the most direct and shortest path. A ray of sword light was thousands of miles away, and hit the glorious figure who couldn't dodge. The latter used his fists to fight the sword energy, resisting stubbornly, attacking and defending, and splashed a spray on the spot. Makushuan obviously heard that guy swearing at his mother, swearing, like a lost dog. He ran into another place to hide in embarrassment, and continued to avoid his edge, delaying time first, and then looking for a way to defeat the enemy. Zhou said, "The other party probably has determined that I am not Zhou's real body. If Zhou really used Makushuan as the personal crossing between heaven and earth, and came here to plot against Chen Pingan, it wouldn't take so much trouble, and it would have already ended at the Great Wall of Sword Qi." Makushuan said angrily, "I thought that your last words were words that only you could say, which could make him more convinced that you are the real body. Didn't I think that it made him suspicious instead?" Zhou smiled and said, "You are superfluous. I reminded you at the time to accept it as soon as you see it. It is supposed to be a fake to the end, it is the whole truth. It is like a delicate landscape painting, but you want to capture a freehand flower, anyone who sees it will feel inappropriate." While speaking, Zhou had already stepped forward, this time directly smashing through the barrier between the two phantom worlds with his body, crossing the boundary and changing the ground, and a gorgeous scene like glass shattering appeared around him. Heavy rain, a convoy of refugees, on the muddy road, there are boxes scattered on both sides that may have rolled down by themselves, or may have been pushed down by the servants of the coachman, many open boxes, and books fell out. Rare books have survived fires and moths, but they cannot escape this war. In this chaotic world, books are probably worth less than antiques. They are heavy and cannot be exchanged for money. If you don't lose them, you will lose nothing. Zhou, with the golden crown on his head, squatted down and picked up a rotten book covered in yellow mud. Makushuan urged him to find out Chen Pingan's whereabouts. Press and hold the top of the word Qin for a while, and then find the rest of the word Pingan on another page, and then shake your wrist lightly. A rare book that is said to be worth 1 or 2 gold per page was shaken off, leaving only 3 gold coins. The text hangs in the air. Zhou then stomped his feet lightly, using methods similar to summoning the gods and ordering the land. The 3 golden characters were crumbling, their expressions were dim, and finally turned into ashes without light. They fell into the mud with the rain, but Chen Pingan was still missing. Makushuan laughed loudly and said, "Is it because you are not hot enough, or is this guy Chen Ping's golden body too calm?" Zhou smiled, then picked out a few more books on the ground, and made up the name Chen Pingan from the black and white books. Then quickly turn out Luope and Mountain from the pages of the book, and then take the hidden characters from Shinin and the official characters from Huanyo respectively. In order not to make a fool of himself again, Zhou simply spelled out the words Great Wall of Sword Qi, Li Zhu Dongtian, and Ni Ping Lane. As a result, 2 sacred treasures were hung in front of Zhou, and they were respectively written Chen Pingan in Luopa Mountain and Hidden Official in the Great Wall of Sword Qi. In addition, each of the talismans still has a line of narration footnotes in small characters, Nipping Lane, Li Zhu Cave. Zhou said, "It will definitely succeed." Makushuan comprehended, waited for Zhou Mi's lips to move slightly, and issued another order, and Ma Kuxuan, who was waiting for the rabbit, was the first to deliver a punch, which was still Chao Si's punching style and strength. His intent was superior to that of Chao Ci in the contest between Qing and Bai in the Zhongte Confucian Temple. Obviously, at that time, neither Chao Ci nor Chen Pingan had a tacit understanding and did not use their full strength. Chen Pingan, who was forcibly recruited, did not know what methods Ma Kuxuan would use and could not prescribe the right medicine, so it was difficult to fight back. He could only defend himself as much as possible. Outside of a bright red robe, there were tens of thousands of the talismans of various colors are layered on top of each other, like dozens of long rivers of talismans, entwined into a ball, protecting the real body in the center of the circle. It's a pity that although there are many methods, Ma Kuxuan's punch smashed the river of talismans, the light was distorted, and the scene was chaotic, but Chen Pingan just glanced at Zhou Mi, raised his arms to block in front of him, and then his body like a stone, it slammed into a stretched curtain cotton cloth, pulling the cloth to gather in the center of the stone, and the world, mountains, rivers and people's buildings were accumulated in the folds of the cloth. Ma Kuxuan raised his hand, and countless golden lightning bolts crazily bombarded the center of the bottom of the pit. Zhou Mi issued another decree to forcibly recall Chen Pingan, the landlord of this world. A purple sword light flashed from Zhou Mi's eyebrows, and pierced Chen Pingan's head, so close that he couldn't avoid it. Chen Pingan had no choice but to turn his head slightly, and the slender sword light cut a deep wound with bones visible on his face. In this fight, Ma Kuxuan could be said to have the upper hand, and with his careful teamwork, Chen Pingan, who is the host, was powerless to fight back. When the aura of the imperial talisman was exhausted, Chen Pingan finally regained his freedom and escaped into the boundless void, but Zhou Mi followed him like a shadow again, changing places, showing a Dharma image, stepping on the ground, and trampling a mountain under his feet into powder, bowing his head and arching his back. He opened the curtain of the sky with his back. He was wearing golden armor and turned into a mighty holding a lightning whip. You didn't make him think of the word Qin Qingdu in his heart, it's just a stinky move. Ma Kuxuan said, it's a pity. I blamed me for being too big. After all, I couldn't invite a complete third god. Zhou Mi smiled and said, I have already said that this person is a scholar after all, and he should be cautious in a dark room and not lose his heart, so even in his mind, it is impossible to call Chen Qing by his name. Ma Kuxuan pouted, disapproving. Zhou Mi said, choosing Qin Qingdu is worse than choosing left and right. Ma Kuxuan said indifferently, the ostentation needs to be big, and if you want to choose, of course you should choose the person with the best swordsmanship. Even with half of Qin Qingdu's Taoism and 50% off swordsmanship, the power will not be too weak, right? Zhou Mi smiled and shook his head, feeling helpless. It turned out that in Ma Kuxuan's mind world, there were 3 incense and fire tables at the same time, but there was only one incense burner with incense, and the smoke curled up, enshrining the 3 people. In addition to Wen Hai Zhou Mi and Chao Ci in white, there is also an old man wielding a sword, who is Qin Qingdu, the eldest sword fairy of the Great Wall of Sword Qi. It's just that compared to the former 2, Qin Qing's face is relatively blurred, and his figure is uncertain. Ma Kuxuan's visualization is similar to some kind of mysterious refining and casting, which can erect a faceless statue of clay sculpture and wood carving on the altar. Of course, there is a limit to the height of their golden bodies, which is of course linked to Ma Kuxuan's realm. Qi practitioners stop at the Ascension realm, and martial arts fighters stop at the realm. Otherwise, since the daring Ma Kuxuan even dared to visualize Wen Hai Zhou Mi, why didn't he just move out the patriarchs of the 3 religions and enshrine them on the altar? The same as the Fengjing landscape gods, the Zhongte Confucian Temple, the Dali Song dynasty, and a small country under the Aquarius continent. Although the Fengjing of the 3 are reasonable, legal and orthodox, their ranks are different. Chen Pingan's imagination, the idea of being related to someone, is equivalent to opening the face for the statue, and responsible for painting gold and color, making the statue more lifelike and more real. Ma Kuxuan carefully preset 3 god statues for Chen Pingan to wait for the latter to go. The thoroughness of Taoism, Chao Ci of martial arts, and Chen Qingdu of swordsmanship. It just so happened that these 3 had appeared in the Great Wall of Sword Qi one after another. In a secret world where a certain civil servant was setting up a table by the river to pray for rain, and the common people paraded through the streets and burned paper dragon kings, Chen Pingan leaned on a sword with one hand and wiped away the blood that flowed from his ears to his temples. It was still Qingming, but the rain stopped. Wearing a green shirt and a long coat, with an umbrella under his arm, he walked slowly, heading elsewhere. In Changning County, the capital city, Wu Di, a Taoist priest who worked as a fortune teller, even stayed in the house that he rented later. Chen Pingan just passed by the Yamen shrine, and heard a familiar voice, and came to the top of the Sword Qi Great Wall in a trance. On the top of the city stands Li Sheng. The current situation is both true and false. Chen Ping put away the umbrella under his arm and bowed to salute. Li Sheng nodded and said, "The Zhou that Ma Kuxuan came up with is fake, so you don't have to worry about it. But whether Zhou will see your current situation, realm and mentality through this matter, I don't guarantee it." Chen Pingan breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing is believing, hearing is believing. Li Sheng said, "The injury is not light." Chen Pingan said, "Compared to the earliest expectations, it is still a bit better. I have to practice my sword knight tour again, and mend that fairy robe. Headaches are headaches, it's better than falling. I saw the Zhou behind Ma Kuxuan before, and knew that this matter must be cautious. If it really is Zhou who stays in the human world, the consequences will be disastrous. It is necessary to let Confucian Temple know about this matter immediately, and at the same time try not to let the sages of Confucian Temple interfere with his revenge." But Chen Pingan only knows the supernatural power of shrinking the earth, and he doesn't know how to cross continents in one step like Huolong Daoist. One of the most straightforward methods is to call Li Sheng's real name several times in his heart. At that time, Li Sheng only replied that he knew, and there was no further comment. Even so, Chen Pingan took a reassurance, walked out of the Moss ancestral hall, let go of his hands and feet, and went to fight with Ma Kuxuan. Li Sheng asked, "How do you feel when you have endured for so many years and your revenge is avenged?" Chen Pingan was a little tired, so he squatted on the top of the city at will and looked into the distance. In this world, except for the Great Wall of Sword Qi, which was strictly in line with reality, the landscape of mountains and rivers in the wild world deviated greatly from the real situation. 100,000 mountains, Tuiyue Mountain, Yiluo and other places, as long as Chen Pingan has been there and seen them with his own eyes, they have all been relocated and clustered together, just like a warehouse for storing things. Chen Pingan was silent for a moment, then said calmly, "I did something that must be done, and I don't seem to feel much joy. Just take it for granted." Li Sheng said with a smile, "You can drink as you like." Chen Ping took out the Yangjian gourd and drank it. Li Sheng asked suddenly, "If you were in my position, what would you do?" Chen Pingan was deeply impressed by Chen Songfeng, a frail scholar, gentle and polite. Among the foreigners, Chen Songfeng, as the son of a wealthy family, was evaluated by Chen Pingan as a good person who must have read a lot of books. At that time, Chen Songfeng followed him, Ning Yao, and Lu Baqiao into the mountains to look for the regular tree. Because Chen Songfeng had never practiced martial arts and Taoism, his feet were too weak, so he became a drag. However, Chen Songfeng had no complaints when he was quite angry. What was rare was that he didn't even have any resentment in his heart. At that time, Chen Pingan, although he had never seen a frog in a well in the world, but relying on his intuition and observing the details of a person's words and deeds, he had a good eye for seeing people. The old blind man said indifferently, "It's just a teacher hired by a wealthy family," but he can say to a young man who obviously has no qualifications for cultivating Taoism, how dare he say that it's nothing to sit on the lotus platform of the Taoist ancestor, and go to the blessed place to be a banished immortal who abandoned his previous life. Chen Ping looked up at the sky. The old blind man saw that Chen Pingan had already understood in his heart, so he said to himself, "I don't know what the world will be like in 1,000 or 1,000 years." Chen Pingan said, "Perhaps people's hearts are still the same people's hearts." The old blind man asked a question for no reason. "I never thought about it. Besides the Huawei Tianma who was forcibly suppressed by the Taoist ancestor, and the porcelain figurine that your brother Cui Chen took the initiative to abandon, is there any other possibility, just like 10,000 years ago? This world has been turned upside down, and the owner has changed again." Chen Ping hesitated for a moment, and said in his heart, "Unexpected, but I hope it won't be such a day. If there is such a day, I hope, just hope, and try to leave a way out." The old blind man patted the young sword immortal on the shoulder. "Chen Qing is not good-looking, but he has good eyesight." Chen Ping smiled wryly and was speechless. The old blind man remembered something, and pointed to the north. "Gong Tang took his disciples, they happened to pass by here, and now they are over there in the mirage. Not long ago, Ning girl persuaded this old deaf child to go to Luopa Mountain as an offering. Gong Tang, as soon as Tang heard the proposal, his heart became hot, and Pidian agreed, and made up his mind to live with you in the future." Chen Pingan always felt that something was wrong with the old deaf child's style of hiding when encountering things. It is unlikely that he wanted to go to Aquarius Island. Since he met Ningyao by chance, he wanted to go to the colorful world with her. It is more reasonable, taking a step back, saying that if the old deaf child really wants to take refuge in himself, it is probably more likely to go to Tongyi's Hao Qingping sword sect. The old blind man lamented for no reason, happy, sad gradually. Chen Pingan thought about it carefully, and said slowly, "Verse is also true." The old blind man laughed and said, "Some people say that the last hermit official of the Great Wall of Sword Qi is young and promising. He has both responsibility and strategy. He has both civil and military skills. His future is limitless." Chen Pingan knew something was wrong, so he resolutely refused to answer. The old blind man continued, "He is a person who can enter the martial arts temple to accompany sacrifices while he is alive." Chen Pingan's head was as big as a dustpan when he heard the words. The old blind man said, "What if he went to the Zhongtu Confucian temple to eat pork head at the same time? Wouldn't it be the same person who entered the Wenwu temple at the same time?" Now Chen Pingan, who was already physically and mentally haggard, almost felt unstable when he heard it. He had to take a deep breath to stabilize his emotions. Chen Shanju, who was used to a certain atmosphere in Luopa Mountain, couldn't bear this kind of flattery, let alone a kind of flattery with ulterior motives. There have never been such figures in the history of the major dynasties in the Haoran world. Occasionally in some small countries in history, only people can rank among the two temples of civil and military affairs, but even so, they are still very few. Enter the Confucian temple of Zhongtu Shenzhou and the martial temple of the ancestral family of the military academy at the same time. No matter who it is, don't even think about it. Chen Pingan asked in a deep voice, "Dare to ask senior, which said that? I'm gonna screw his head off." The old blind man smiled and said, "You're being kind, let's forget it after hearing it, why bother to ask questions?" Chen Pingan said with a smile, "I must meet him for a while, and express my thanks in person." The old blind man was silent for a moment, then gave the answer, "Me." Chen Pingan was silent for a long time, thanks to Senior for showing love. The old blind man who didn't know whether it was Dao name or Jitsi said, "It's a pity." Chen Pingan knew what this Senior was talking about, but he couldn't say anything. In previous years, 2 children of the same age. One is the best life, but he doesn't think it is. One is the hardest one, and he doesn't know it is. The family background is different, the state of mind is similar, so they all live very lonely. In their childhood, they never played with their peers. The same stars were shining brightly, and someone was sitting on the small soil bag of the fairy grave, looking up at the sky with his cheeks on his hands. Someone was lying on the ridge of the field, with a root of grass in his mouth, his legs raised, and the ditch was gurgling. They looked at the same starry sky together. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.